You know, that quote comes from one of the greatest scientific minds in all of human history. And it's a quote born from, well, complete and utter financial ruin. A catastrophe that proves that even a genius who can unravel the secrets of the entire universe can fall victim to the madness of the crowd.
So today, we're going to dive into how Sir Isaac Newton, the man who literally defined the laws of our universe, lost an absolute fortune in one of history's most notorious financial disasters, the South Sea Bubble. It's this incredible story of intellect versus emotion, logic versus pure greed.
Okay, so to really get what happened, you gotta picture this. We're in early 18th century Britain. The nation was just drowning in a mountain of debt from years and years of war, and they were desperate for some kind of financial silver bullet. The stage was perfectly set for a massive, speculative frenzy.
And right on cue, in walks the South Sea Company. Now on paper, this thing sounded brilliant. A public-private partnership set up to take over the government's massive debt. And in return, the company was granted an exclusive monopoly on trade with the supposedly gold-rich colonies of South America.
And the guys running this company? Oh, they were master salesmen. They sold this dream of guaranteed, unbelievable wealth, spinning these wild stories of endless gold and silver just waiting in the South Seas. The king himself backed it, and they even offered easy loans so that anyone from any walk of life could buy shares on credit. I mean, how could you resist? The hook was completely set.
Yeah, and you know what they say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. See, here's the dirty little secret, the fundamental lie at the very heart of the whole thing. The South Seas were controlled by Spain, and oh yeah, Britain was at war with them. Those so-called exclusive trading rights, they boiled down to permission to send just one ship, a single ship, per year. The entire business model was a complete fantasy.
But did that little detail stop the madness? Not a chance. I mean, just look at this timeline. In a few short months, the stock price went supernova, from £128 in January to over $1,000 by June. This wasn't investing anymore, folks. This was pure, uncut national hysteria. Everybody was going to get rich.
So, right in the middle of all this insanity, the world's most rational man, Sir Isaac Newton, decides to get in on the action. Turns out, not even he was immune to the siren song of easy money. And this is where the story gets really wild. Here you have Newton, a guy who lived and breathed pure logic, stepping into a world driven entirely by rumors and hype. But, true to form, he started out approaching it with his usual caution. And at first, his logic totally paid off. Early on in the bubble, he sold his shares, pocketing a cool £7,000. That was a 100% profit, a huge win. He'd played the market perfectly and gotten out before it got totally nuts. I mean, that's the smart move, right? The perfectly rational decision. But, oh, the party was far from over. After Newton cashed out, the bubble just kept inflating to even more ridiculous heights. It became a national obsession. You literally couldn't escape it. Barbers, maids, dukes, everybody was talking about how much money they were making. And this, right here, is the key moment. Just try to put yourself in his shoes for a second. You're Isaac Newton, you're the smartest man alive, you've already made your profit. But every single day, you're hearing stories about your friends, your colleagues, making double, triple, quadruple their money. That fear of missing out, that FOMO, the psychological pressure, it must have been immense. And he broke. In a move that just completely went against everything he stood for, logic, reason, calculation, Newton caved. He got swept up in the hype and threw his entire fortune back into South Sea stock, buying in at the absolute peak of the market. So, what happens to every bubble in history? Eventually, they pop. And when this one did, the fallout was fast, it was brutal, and for Isaac Newton, it was a total catastrophe. It felt like it happened overnight. All that confidence? Gone. Poof. The whole scheme was revealed to be built on nothing, and the investors who had been so desperate to buy were suddenly even more desperate to sell. It wasn't a sell-off, it was a stampede. The scale of this collapse was just devastating. From that peak of over £1,000 a share in June, the price cratered to just $175 by September. The whole thing basically evaporated in just 3 months.
And for Newton, who had thrown all his money back in right at the peak, the result was a loss of £20,000. That was an unimaginable amount of money back then, a life-changing fortune.
Okay, so to give you an idea of what that actually means, in today's money, Newton's loss was over $3 million. He was, for all intents and purposes, financially wiped out. The mind that could map the heavens was powerless against market panic.
Well, the crash didn't just affect Newton. It sent shockwaves through the entire country. But for him, personally, that wound, it never really healed. It was a brutal lesson, learned in the most painful way imaginable.
The whole thing led to bankruptcies everywhere, and people were furious. The government launched an investigation that uncovered massive fraud and bribery. For Newton, the experience was so traumatic that he forbid anyone from ever even saying the words South Sea around him again. And get this, it's absolutely wild. The British government was still paying off debt from this mess all the way until 2015, almost 300 years later.
And that, of course, brings us full circle, back to where we started. That quote isn't just a clever line anymore, is it? It's the voice of a man who had mastered the laws of the physical world, but got completely humbled by the irrational chaos of human beings.
Look, Newton's story is one of those timeless warnings. It proves that markets aren't just cold, hard numbers on a spreadsheet. They're messy. They're driven by human emotions, by fear and by greed, and those forces can overwhelm even the most brilliant mind on the planet.
So it really leaves you with a question, doesn't it? When everyone around you is losing their minds, shouting that this time is different, could you resist it? Could you stay rational when the madness of the crowd finally takes over?